Hello, everyone. This is Allegedly Caleb, and I'm back with another episode of my Poland 39 campaign, where me and three other people are all playing the big campaign of Poland 39. And actually, this isn't the biggest campaign. There's an 158 turn one, and then there's about, maybe 300 turn one? So we're playing the quote unquote shorter of those two. Um, I am playing as the Polish. I'm taking control of basically the northern half of the country. And then my ally is playing as the southern half of the country. And the Germans are split up pretty much in the same way. James, my fellow YouTuber, who you've seen on this channel a little bit, is playing as the southern half of the Germans. So we'll occasionally be running into him. But my main opponent is, well, I won't say his name, but he is taking me on in the north. So I'm going to be going over everything that's happening, and not in crazy amount of depth. And I won't be clicking on any of the units because I don't want him knowing anything about my units. And this episode is pretty old compared to where we're at in the campaign right now. I didn't want to post anything that was exactly what's going on, in the off chance that if one of our opponents sees it, they'll use that to their advantage. Already they've got enough of an advantage as the Germans, and we didn't really say anything about forbidding one another from looking at our starts, our starting positions, any of that sort of stuff. I mean, honor-wise, it'd be better if you didn't look, but it's impossible to keep someone from looking at something like that. So, overall, I'm going to give you a quick overview of the situation, and then we're going to take a look at some of the specific hot spots on the map, and then I'll give you my thoughts of the campaign so far. So, we're going to start up with Danzig, what this whole war was initially fought over. So, here it is, all the way up here. Actually, I don't want to give too much away. There we go. So you can see up at Danzig, he's not really doing too much yet. There's a couple units that are scattered around. At this point, I was debating whether I should just hold my position or potentially push down and try to take out a couple of these units before he gets reinforcements up here. You can see some of his border units are already pushing in. His border units are much better and bigger than mine are, and more numerous. So that's mostly what we'll be seeing. He's got a couple other units coming in as well that are not border units. You can see some more border units over here. Now, over here in Casualties, this is where the most action for me is happening right now. And remember, it is 11 a.m. on September 3rd. So we've got a bunch of units here around this little area of Casualties. These are OW units. I'll show him. So essentially OW units, those are like territorial defense units. They're essentially almost like a militia unit or like a National Guard that are assigned to protect one specific area of the country. And all of these guys in brown were assigned to protect this little area, Casualties. So essentially their job, no way I can hold this against all of these different units. And you'll actually see they have two motorized divisions here. So two entire motorized divisions, no way I can hold off against them with just one little, and this is basically a regiment. About the size of a regiment. So no way I could hold off against them. So either I retreated with them, which honestly probably would have been better if I retreated with the delaying action, but I did hold up both of these large units for a long time, long enough so that my units behind would be able to move into better defensive positions. So I won't show those units for now, but these guys are heroes. And you'll see what happens to them. But they were able to help my units. You can see a little bit of these guys. The white underneath means they're in travel mode and they can move faster. So they're retreating to better positions. Now, you'll see a bit of a trend. Most of our border battalions getting isolated and destroyed. Not battalions. Most of these guys, the border battalions, are like 35 men at the most, or that's how they're all split off. If I can combine them, then they can get up into about maybe 120 men units, but that's if you combine all 4 units that are all split apart about this much. So you can see I tried to bring these two together to combine them, but they were able to find them and isolate them. Now here's a little strong area I have. This is the main road you can see on the map. This is the main road from Germany into my first big city, which I won't show because I've got a lot of defenses there. You can see that along here. But what I am doing is I am creating a little perimeter around Naklo to give more of my units from Army Poznan, which is largely not being engaged, the chance to dig in and hold this river. I also want to blow as many of these bridges as I can. So that's why this engineer is running down here to do that, and why these guys are putting up a little bit of a defense. Now, all of this I am 100% okay showing. Because again, one of my strategies, knowing that our opponents could look at our initial like deployments and sneak through the holes, I know that was something they could do and probably would do. If I played as the Germans, I might do the same thing. So I thought, I'm not going to just leave my units where the game starts them. I want to make my own defensive lines so that they won't know where my main line of contact is. So that's exactly what I've done. So I'm okay showing where a lot of these units are because they are not going to be in the same positions that they started in. But I won't show Poznan. So a lot of these guys are all moving into new positions. This is going to be a little strong point. Now you'll see Poznan. See those forts there? That's the start of Poznan. We're not going to show it because I don't want to show too much. But back to the border. You can see there's a bunch of units along here. These are all border units. They will eventually, I imagine, try to take Poznan. So we're going to keep on showing. We've got this little area, Lesno, being held by another ON battalion. They're mostly being engaged by enemy border units. Same thing over here. We gave this up. It was only 50 points. No sense in getting our units destroyed trying to hold something that we realistically can't hold. I'm pulling some of my units back with that same strategy. Same thing over here. Now this is an actual infantry division. I believe a light infantry division, but still it's going to hit way harder than anything I have in this area. So we're token holding onto these areas, but mostly we'll probably fall back. Now this is where my ally starts to take over the field. Actually, before we get to that, we'll go along down this southern way, and then we'll come back up and take a look at my northern flank. Because that's where the most action for me is happening. As they try to come in through Prussia. So anyway, you can see he has a little bit of an issue. He has isolated some of their tanks, which is awesome. I hope that he's able to... Oh, he really should have tried assaulting there, I think. I think if he could have disrupted those tanks with all these units, he could have potentially taken those out, or at least taken out a bunch of them. I don't know how well they would have been able to assault, because assaulting armored units is difficult to do. But here's some more units. Reminds me I need to stop clicking stuff. Anyway, he's got some cavalry here screening these SS guys. So a lot of them are isolated, or at least started isolated for the turn. I don't know which SS unit this was, but here's some more units. Now again, I am okay showing this because most of this has changed by now, if not all of this. So he's got first light tank division right here. Okay, some more units along the border. Okay, now this is a little bit of an interesting area. So, here's a big river that we're defending. We've got a screening force, pretty much a regiment, south of it, trying to hold that position. James was able to somehow sneak past this whole area and get behind them. I think he was able to do this either by knowing where this gap was, just by looking at the map beforehand and seeing that we do not start with any troops defending down here, and then sneaking all these armored units through. You can see right here as well, they're probably doing the same thing. And then trying to break into this area. You can see he did try assaulting across. That's why these guys are disrupted. He's got more tanks coming. This is the 4th Panzer Division, by the way. What is this one? 19th Infantry Division. Mokra. This is the 1st Panzer Division. These purple. This division is the 7th Infantry Division, the green one of ours. He's got the 14th Infantry Division right here, and more elements of 1st Panzer Division. Okay, now down here is when it starts to get really messy. Got more infantry, some SS even. Tons of enemy units over here. I can't remember what German armored division had these Czech tanks, but those guys are over here. We're pretty strong in this area. And then it gets really messy along here. Now, I'll not show too much because I don't want anything exposed that Gunner's doing. But you can see there is so much fighting going along in all of this. This is all industrial and urbanized hexes with tons of pillboxes all along here. So we're inflicting a good amount of casualties on them from this area. Actually, we still are. We still are. That's something I will say. We are still holding really well over here. Okay, now back to over here. So there's more units. Got more armor down here. Wish we could see what division that was. And it's a huge mess. It's a huge mess over here. They have a lot of these partisan units in this area too that are causing trouble for us. Anyway, got some more enemy infantry going up against one of our mountain divisions. Very cool. Then further down, we've got more infantry against the same mountain division. And now is when we start to get into the mountains, and where we start running into, what are these guys called? What's that country called? Slovakia. We start running into Slovakian forces, which did participate with Germany in the invasion of Poland. So you can see a lot of these guys are more border guards, are detecting the enemy pushing us in this area. We're trying to isolate them. They're trying to isolate us. You can see there's not really any clear line of resistance along here. The 4th Light Division is over here. My friend was trying to get some units out, but they've blocked the rail line. And over here, we've got the 2nd Mountain Division from the Germans. We've got a KOP, which is essentially more border guards, but these guys are a little more built up, and I could say a little more prepared. I was looking at the wrong area. Got a little bit of a... you can't even call that a strong point over here. Okay. More enemy forces and friendly forces engaging each other. Again, real big mess over here. And then, as we get further down here, no more enemy forces, because we are no longer bordering Slovakia or Germany down here. Okay, now let's move up to the rest of my front. Okay, so here's Danzig, a famous Westerplatte. Okay, one thought I had about this, I'm kind of frustrated with it. Westerplatte, spoiler, is not going to last very long, because, I don't know if this was a mistake, but they forgot, or the people, WDS, forgot to put a supply point here, a supply hex. So, instead of when the enemy comes here, they're pinning us against the water, isolating us. And since we don't have supply here, that isolates our supply. So instead of us lasting 2 weeks, like Westerplatte did historically, we last till like turn 5 or 6 maybe. Which they start out as a morale level A unit. So, and in a pillbox. So these guys should really last a long time. But because they have no supply point, they became isolated and had low ammo because of that. Which then brought them down to morale level C, and suddenly it's not that hard to take. So that part kind of frustrated me a little bit, but again, what are you going to do? It's one small little area. Okay, now you got Danzig. Now one thing that's really helpful for me is I was able to destroy a bunch of the bridges along this river right here. So you can see they did take over this little town, but that is because they brought some of their units from the north down. You can actually see this is the unit that we've been facing in this area. You can see our units retreating south. We were able to destroy that ford right here. So they're trying to build a bridge, and I still don't think that bridge has been finished. Destroyed that ford too. And as we move down, you'll see a bunch of my troops were coming down. And like I said in the intro, I am essentially evacuating this Polish corridor because I do not want my troops getting trapped there. I would rather have those divisions to play with as the enemy starts penetrating further into Poland. So here's our main defensive line. We're facing the 21st Infantry Division along this area. They're trying to face our bunker line, which I will say is very strong. It's very strong. Even now, they're still having a difficult time penetrating it. And we've got a trench line. And on this trench line, we are facing the 228th Infantry Division. Okay, there we go. Sorry, my tooth was hurting. Okay. And then we just have a bunch of border guards fighting each other. Got our cavalry, which was spread out everywhere. We lost some of them because they got isolated up here, which honestly was my fault. This has been like my main... This game has been like my main... Almost like tutorial. Not tutorial. It's been my main experience with figuring out how these game mechanics work. At least it was in the beginning. Now I would say I'm very experienced. But I was playing... In this game, I'm playing an opponent who knows the game system very well and has taught me a lot about isolation and how to isolate enemy units, how to do that the best. I've learned a lot about that in this game. So, this is Malwa. As you can see, there are not very many forces here. And I'm proud to say, even though I evacuated pretty much the majority of the 20th Infantry Division from here, it took the Germans a long time to get into here. Still, even though there's token defenses on this whole bunker line. Now, I could have tried to hold this against them, but I think they would have just flanked it, which you'll see along here. These guys, I'll show them. They're no longer in this position. They're facing off 1st Infantry Division and 12th Infantry Division. They're still actively fighting them, actually. And then we've got some enemy units. We've actually got a cavalry. What is this? A cavalry brigade? These guys have 800 men in their units, which is pretty crazy. So we've got more units over here on the border. And then as we follow this main road, now this area up here, I have had so much success in. He didn't really start attacking it until a little bit later, but I have pretty much isolated and destroyed almost all of the units he used to attack it that I know of. I think he might be making another attack, but I'm very proud of that. That's one area that I was able to be a little bit more offensive minded in. So what are the losses so far? Not looking too great. We have lost 10,000 men since these first 4 turns. Now, I would say 95% of that are our border squads that were essentially destroyed on the first turn. Nothing we can do about that. But 10,000 men, that is a lot. That is a lot of losses. And this entire game is us trying to basically catch up to them and like bring their losses up as much as we can, while also giving space, because we have a lot of space to give in Poland. But you can see it takes them, they have to get over 10,000 points to get past a major defeat, and they are not past there yet even. Well, I guess hopefully they wouldn't be past there yet, even when we're only like 3 days into the game. But they're still not past there. We're holding them okay, I would say. Now, my overall thoughts about the game, I am a little bit nervous that they're going to break through in the South. You'll see what I'm talking about as we get further into the campaign. Other thoughts, the German units are really strong. Like, even their infantry, one-on-one, their infantry battalions wreck my infantry battalions. And their armor is hard to deal with because, frankly, the Polish do not have tons of armored or anti-tank assets. So we have to be really sparing about how we use them, and then really try to pent up those armored units in woods, along rivers, things like that, or they have to use them to assault and then they lose them. So that's been my strategy so far. We have a little bit of an air force, and that air force has actually been a little bit helpful. It's disrupted some of their units, destroyed some of their tanks. Also, our rail lines have been very helpful. The Germans don't have access to them, so we are using them to the utmost of our ability. And so far, those rail lines have helped us be really mobile with our units. Now, those rail lines will get degraded over time. We'll be able to move less and less units, but hopefully we won't have to move as many outside of these first couple days, because we'll get our units where we want them, and then any other units that'll be moved will just be reinforcements or any other major movements we want to do. Excuse me. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is the enemy has been using their anti-tank units. All of their anti-tank units in this game are motorized. And it's been really annoying, or even mechanized. And it's been really annoying because they're using them as scouts. Now, that has allowed us to rack up a ton of points killing those units. You can already see we've already destroyed 58 guns in these 4 turns. Because we've been able to put so much pain into those scouts, into those units. But the even more annoying part that those things do is they can cut your supply, I believe. I believe anti-tank units have zone of control that they can cut your supply with. So what they do, if you're not careful, is get behind your lines, and then what you thought was just an annoying little anti-tank unit that you could deal with pretty effectively ends up cutting your entire regiment's supply, and then suddenly the rest of their normal forces easily swoop in and destroy them. So that's an experience that I've had a little bit so far. But I think after putting so much hurt on those units, they're being a little more careful with them than they were at the beginning of this campaign. And hopefully they still end up being a little bit reckless with them, and we can really get more points by racking those up. But anyway, everyone, if you have anything you want to know specifically about this campaign so far, or have any questions about my experience, or want to know anything from my teammates' point of view, let me know, and I'd be happy to look into it. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will be back probably in a couple weeks with another update video. We're roughly pumping out a turn every week or two. On average, recently it really went down. I think this last turn we did took about a month, but it's been Christmas time. I know my partner is very, very busy, and I've frankly been pretty busy, but I'm hoping we can get that turn rate back up to about 1 a week, maybe 1 every 2 weeks. And that would mean maybe getting one of these videos out about every 1 or 2 weeks. So hopefully that's a realistic goal. But anyway, everyone, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you next time.